Hello, everybody, and welcome back to falmunction Plays the Beginner's Guide. Uh, because I have to be in this pause screen, um, yeah, this is not the most exciting of intros, but if you've seen the last episode, you know we're uncovering a very, very interesting and intimate kind of story about a game developer. So, yeah, I'm eager to find out more. Apparently, these last few games are pretty much there to create a continuous meaning. We'll see. House literally in the middle of nowhere, with what seems to be like a hill on the left and the right.
Let's talk about video game development for a second. Every video game runs on what's called an engine, which determines what the game can and cannot do. So in other words, the engine is a set of tools for game development.
Yes.
To make all of these games, Coda is using an engine called Source.
Yes.
Like all engines, Source has certain things that it does well, and it has certain things that it does poorly. One of the things that it does very well is boxy linear corridors. That's why so many of Coda's games are set in these large, flat, empty rooms, is just because he's working with what the engine does well. The tools available to the creator shape what kinds of creative work they're going to end up making. You might consider paying attention to the architecture in Coda's games, to notice how they seem to stem from an engine that's very good at producing linear, boxy corridors.
I guess we took the short way down. Yeah, Stanley Parable was also in the Source engine, and it too had long, winding corridors, which still looked nice, don't get me wrong. Yep. And for some reason I can't get off this set of stairs, so oh well. And I can't get to this thing here. There's like invisible walls everywhere. Oh, not so invisible actually. You can see the difference. Okay. It's actually looking quite nice. I know these bars. Oh. I believe they're the same bars from Half-Life 2 at the very beginning, where you go through the government facility at the beginning of City 17, in case you played that game. Which I know many of you probably have. There are invisible walls everywhere, which is
this
not
prison,
very intuitive.
Funny enough, in Coda's original design, the doors stayed shut for a full hour before letting you go.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I think we're gonna skip that.
Thanks.
This is something that he and I used to argue about a lot. You know, whether a game ought to actually be playable, whether it means anything if no one can get through it. And I would always defend that, you know, all this work goes into the game, why not make it playable and accessible? And so we just got into heated arguments over it, and there was one time that after one of these conversations, he went home, and a day or two later, he sent me a zip file entitled Playable Games that was full of hundreds of individual games, each of which was just an empty box that you walked around in and nothing else. Believe me, I played every single one of those just to find out if there was like a gag hidden somewhere. There wasn't.
Yeah, he's making a point, and I can see both sides, and the one important thing you have to ask yourself is what counts, you know? Is it, do you want to sacrifice your artistic vision or compromise compromise the way people perceive it, or people can access it, because what Coda is doing here is he's taking the approach of like a literal work of art, which games inevitably are, undoubtedly. But if he says like, well, games don't have to be playable, and you know you can keep stuff hidden from the player without telling him or without even hinting at that content, you're going against the principle of games in general, you know? And I don't know if, I mean, you can do that, sure, but that detracts from the medium, I think. So, and I'm still not saying that, you know, unplayable games
with the exact same solution as the last time.
I'm not saying that unplayable games can't have something to say, you know? It's just that if you want to say something and the only way of conveying it is by making it somehow unplayable, you're, in the end, you can't really blame anybody for not even taking the time to look at it. It's like putting up an art exhibit and locking the door so that nobody can come inside. Oh yeah. What, could I do it one more time?
There's still no clear indication of what makes this puzzle so special that Coda is going to return to it over and over. But I promise I'll share with you my interpretation very shortly.
I wonder also if this music was part of the game, or if it was added by, you know, the beginner's guide as a guiding tool to, you know, connect all these games together. Because I'm not quite sure, but I think the last game had similar music. I might be wrong though. Listen.
Here, Coda begins using a kind of dialogue system that he fashioned out of the engine's chat capabilities. Use the 1, 2, 3 buttons on your keyboard to respond.
Okay, did you come from up above? What was up there? The world stamped with whiteness. There was an enormous prison I spent hours in. There were these floating colored blocks. All of this is true. And all of this is, you know, remarkable. I'll just go with the first one. That's the world above. You've been there. Yeah, I guess this is what they might be most interested in. Now this is important. Did you have to go through a puzzle with 2 doors and switches? Yes, I did. That was literally the last thing I did before coming here. No, I don't remember having to go through any puzzle. I prefer not to tell you. After all, we just only met. I'll be honest with them. I mean, if they know about the puzzle, there's no point in lying to them. Again, perfect. Now please tell us how you solved it. Tell us the solution. Tell us how to get to the other side. Okay, so they don't know how to solve it? I don't remember how I solved it. I'm trying to remember, but I can't. I didn't solve it. Someone else let me in. Trust me, you don't have to go over there. So we can't tell them the solution. We have no choice but to lie. Is there anything else I can do? I don't want to lie to them, necessarily. I guess I have no choice. I'll go with 1. You must think harder, please. Try hard to remember. It's so important that we get out of here. You must escape this prison. Can you think harder? There must be something more. Please tell us how to reach the end. I guess I need to show them now. And it just leads to the same room again. How you get here was the puzzle you had to pass through. Yes, do you want to know how to solve it? No, I've been right here this entire time. No, we actually find the blank space between the doors to be far more interesting. Have you seen it yet? Why would I care about the space between the doors? Oh, the space in between the two puzzle doors. Actually, now that you mention it, I remember feeling strange as I passed through, and I don't recall a space between the doors. It was kind of strange. Don't think too hard about it. You'll see it again soon. So...
And so we make one last descent down to the final floor of the level.
Doesn't look like it. Yeah, let's see what this final level has in store for us. This is outside, but yeah.
Okay, I can't tell you quite why, but for some reason Coda fixates on this lamppost. It's going to appear at the end of every single one of his games from here on out. I'll tell you what I think. I think that up to this point, you know, he's been making really strange and abstract games with no clear purpose, and maybe you can only float around in that headspace for so long. Because now he wants something to hold on to. He wants a reference point. He wants the work to be leading to something. He wants a destination, which is what this lamppost is. It's a destination. We're going to see it in the work as well. His games are just going to become a lot more cohesive, a lot more fully developed, with more of a clear idea behind them. And as we go, that idea will get clearer and clearer and clearer.
All right. Yeah, let me just take this second here. This is actually really interesting. It similarly to Stanley Parable, but also kind of in a very different way. This game gets me to thinking about game development, of course, thinking of art and how it can be conveyed through game development. And I encourage you to actually also speculate and give me your interpretation and the way you think games can and should maybe be made, and what kind of ideas you want to see in games. I just think we can get a nice little dialogue going there. This game is connected to the internet. As you walk around, you can leave notes. All notes you see are left by other players. Huh. Sort of like Dark Souls. Or Demon Souls. Demon Souls was... I think it came out in 2008, so he might have gotten that idea from them, or the idea might have been they might have arrived at the same idea independently. Nice room, not weird.
So first off, I'm sure you can deduce this, but this game is not connected to the internet. All of the notes that you're going to see have been written by Coda. This was actually the first game of his that I ever played. This was shortly after I met him at a weekend game jam in Sacramento, where I grew up. I saw him working on this very level, and it was just so different from anything that anyone else was doing. So right away I was like, I have to be friends with this person. In retrospect, I think I was probably a bit too pushy, trying to get his attention. I was over-enthusiastic. But he was very gracious about it and very patient with me. And I cooled off eventually. Oh, feel free to skip over any of these notes if they're not doing anything for you. Nothing extra is going to happen if you read all of them. Either way, to me they convey a sense of loneliness. I see this person who's filled with thoughts and feelings and beliefs and has no way to express them except as scattered and unheard voices in a game that wasn't meant to be played.
Yeah, it surely wasn't meant to be played because, you know,
But
if
it's ironic,
everybody...
isn't it, that in playing this game and seeing how alone Coda often felt, that we get to know him better and actually kind of connect with him. And I have to be honest with you, this idea is really seductive to me. That I could just play someone's game and see the voices in their head and get to know them better and have to do less of the messy in-person socializing. I could just get to know you through your work. I think this is why I always liked Coda's games so much, is because it felt like they let me have that connection. I felt as though he was inviting me personally into his world. And then I feel less lonely too.
Yeah, obviously this wasn't meant to be played. Because, first of all, if you were a player and you saw all these, and you actually had a way of expressing your thoughts, I would expect a lot more, you know, messages answering each other, people getting into arguments against each other, stuff like that. And people, if they weren't able to actually leave other messages, they would figure it out pretty soon. I guess we're gonna have to go down here. And jump. No, we can't. Invisible wall. I guess down the path here is the way to go. What the shit is this cavern? Yeah, there are lots of random. I guess these ones that we can't reach probably don't have any messages on them. Free t-shirt. Open sesame. Nope. Door how open? I'm not even reading them anymore. But maybe that's also like, if these are his expressions, and he must have known that people would just after a while would stop reading them. That's also like some kind of commentary on his own thoughts, you know. That's what he thinks of his own state of mind and his ideas. They're not worthwhile, something like that, maybe. Who knows? I could be completely wrong on this. Whoever made this has issues. See what I mean? So, can we interact with this thing? Probably not. From here, it looks like dots. No shit. This terrible secret, we kept it well. Just keeps going.
At the end of this level, we're going to see the puzzle again. And here, I'll tell you what I think the puzzle means. Each of these games represents an idea that was on Coda's mind at the time that he was making it. And the puzzle is a way of closing the door on a previous chapter of his life before moving on to the next one. In each of his games, after exploring a theme that, he might find difficult, Coda can then place this puzzle that he knows has a reliable solution, he understands exactly how it works, and so it gives him a simple mechanism for moving on.
That seems fine. I can probably agree to this.
And because there's this dark area between the doors, a space between spaces, before you move on, you get to pause. just for a moment, a few seconds to reflect on and let go of the events that led you here, to step back and connect the pieces together, to grasp at that elusive bigger picture.
Only one? You're underestimating your player base. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, this one is tough. It's gonna kind of just spin its own wheels for a few minutes. Hang with it.
Okay. The last part actually gave me a few chills. So yeah, it might just be that I'll have to wait a little bit until it opens. What's this over there? Like another wall with something yellow written on it. And there's this picture that opens the secret door. Very maybe looking at this picture opens something else. Music is pretty intense.
See, like, this is it. The whole game. And there's nothing that's particularly interesting about it. You just walk to the end of a hallway. Except, for some reason, Coda gets really fixated on this prison that has all of this modern furniture. And I don't know why, but he decides he needs to revisit this prison. He's gonna start over, use the same assets, turn it into something else. Okay, cool. Here's version 2.
Okay. So no actual furniture this time. Okay. Put a giant hole in the ground. Nope. Okay, now what about along the wall of the room? 10 stoves lined along the wall. Yeah, it's just gonna do whatever it feels like it. Skylight, full seated window. Thinking LED ceiling lights. And Tesla coils, of course. And a table. You need a table? I already have a table. Who are you? Where exactly are you doing this from? I'm pretty sure none of my choices are making any difference. Tables were invented in 1935. I don't think so. Okay.
There's a bit more to this one, but still it's not really communicating anything. It's kind of just weird for weirdness' sake.
I sort of agree.
So okay, he throws it out and starts over. This time he comes at the prison idea from a different direction.
Okay. This guide will enable you to escape any prison environment. Follow the instructions carefully, take care that you remember each step. First, click on this table. Over to the photo frame and click to turn it slightly. Now turn the floor lamp in this room off, then turn it back on. Now go to the left side sofa, move it over a little. Touch the shelves. And that's it. In a real prison, the escape will now open. Return to the start to be taken back to your prison. So I was supposed to memorize that, I guess. What was the first one again? Click on the table, then the painting, then turn the light on and off, then sofa, then shelves. Gotcha. Return.
And of course, now the table is gone and you can't begin the chain of events to escape.
I see.
Here's a version where there are no bars, but you can't actually get to the well. And then a version where the inside of the prison is the outside and the outside is the inside. Let me just blink you real quick through a few more of these. I mean, he really unloaded on this prison idea. There's nearly a dozen of them. Personally, I think it's awful to watch this, to see a person basically unraveling through their work. And for what? Like, at what point do you just go, maybe there are game ideas other than this prison that I could be working on? But Coda doesn't have that voice telling you to stop, that particular mechanism of defense against yourself. Without it, you just spiral. And so he keeps going and going and going and going and going, and then he hits on something. And he likes it. And that's it. He's done. He stops making prisons. This is the very last version of the prison game that he created. And the reason I think it works is that the prison is not actually in it.
Okay, I'll stop right there because we're running long on the length of this episode, but also just to get a little cliffhanger going for the next episode. I'm also very, very intrigued and I want to finally see this realized prison. I'll see you guys around.